Show me to a higher place.
Yes, we received intelligence that there would be a retaliation attack upon the Andromeda Council biospheres by specifically the Draco reptilian fleet. Our sources provided us information on 50 dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts in the reptilian army are light attack cruisers manned by approximately 50 crew with room for up to 100 troops, marines, hand-to-hand fighters if you call them, or combat fighters. These 50 ships were being launched through a portal in the fourth dimension on the other side of Jupiter, the opposite side of Jupiter from Earth. They were hoping to capitalize on the fact that there's so much traffic going through that particular portal right now that people would miss the fact that these are Draco and not somebody else. And then they would drop into the third dimension, go to the Andromeda Council biospheres, and fire special missiles that phase between the third and fourth dimension, thus rendering them difficult to target. Missiles designed to ship kill, in other words, designed to disrupt the life support capacities of the biosphere in order to take the technology intact, but kill all the people on board. They targeted 8 biospheres. It seems they either did not know of or know the locations of 2 others. And the attack was scheduled for April 2nd as we reckon time. Of the 50 crew, only about 15 are required to fly the ships. The rest are required for the armaments. And the armaments are quite heavy. And serious business, let's put it that way. You don't want to be at the receiving end of that. There were 50 ships. First heard that there would be 40, and we knew that this could be upgraded. Now, one thing people need to realize is that information passes more or less instantly on that realm of reality, on that physical or non-physical existence. It becomes very much a case of, I know that you know that I know that you know that you know that I know sort of situation. We knew that this attack was being launched. We told the Andromeda Council. The Dracos knew that the Silver Legion knew, and they also knew that we would be taking efforts to make sure that this attack did not have the intended consequences. Through the use of an insider, we managed to gain information on the blueprints of the ship, the layout, all of the critical points of the ship that are most critical to preventing it from doing its intended task, and to disable the crew and put it on lockdown, so to speak. We developed 50 teams of 100 people. This was the largest simultaneous operation the Silver Legion has ever performed. That is, 5,000 people were involved in this. A pretty significant chunk of our forces. Not all of them, naturally, but a fairly noticeable chunk. And we used novel teleportation techniques to get them on board, simultaneously on board every single ship of those. And the intention was to capture the ship if possible, intact. If failing that, make sure it was destroyed without rendering any threat to the Andromeda Council. We were able to kill 30 ships and able to capture 5 ships, and the other 15 were easily neutralized by the Andromeda Council because we did definitely weaken them. In the process, we lost 800 operatives and are in the process of recovering them. Actually, at this point, we have recovered all but a handful. We also had the entire strike force that was sent out was inflicted with various injuries and wounds, and not to mention parasites. Now, some of you who have had experience with reptilians, whether in the flesh, for which I'm very sorry to hear it, or spiritually, you will know that they often make use of parasites, which, whether they're physical or ethereal, attach themselves to people attempt to influence the behavior of those people or damage them in some way to exploit those people. They do it to themselves too. Every ship, particularly the warship that they have, is filthy with parasites. They're in the air, so when you step in, you're breathing them. They infect you more or less right away. We had put as much protection on our troops as we could, but naturally when they came home with their 5 dreadnoughts intact and successful party, they immediately got sent to the infirmary for treatment, and the rest of the team basically spent the time decontaminating the ships that we took. It also ensures loyalty, right? Nobody is as loyal as somebody who's completely mind-controlled by a parasite. So that's the reason why they use them, and it's very, very prevalent on a warship because they need to make sure there's absolute loyalty. There's no time for petty politics or backstabbing, which the Draco love to revel in their own political structure. If they're going to be effective on a warship, they have to have total control over their people. So that's why they use those parasites. It also makes repelling border quite a bit easier. And like I said, even though we had superior numbers, it was still a very difficult fight. We did lose 800 people. There were injuries across the board, and nobody escaped without a parasite. So there was our medical people have been very, very busy. But we have something that nobody else has managed to do yet, and that is capture an intact Draco warship. Usually self-destruct. Their orders are to self-destruct in order to deny the enemy, whoever it may be, the technology to deconstruct. But we took 5, and we gave 1 to the Andromeda Council for reverse engineering and investigation purposes. And in return, the Andromeda Council has presented us with our very own scout ship, what most of us on Earth think of as a flying saucer, along with some seconded pilots to train us how to fly our new prizes, because to be honest, the Silver Legion has not operated in the theater of space, and flying a craft is rather new to us. It was all we could really do to get it back into Silver Legion headquarters. There is no death in the higher dimensions. There is, however, disruption of the spirit to the point where that spirit goes back to Source. You can call Source whatever you want, Creator, God. It's the same force or entity that made us all. And if we are disrupted enough, and this typically does not happen to civilians, which is why you don't hear about it in the normal discussions about higher dimensions. The damages become so severe that that person can no longer hold themselves together, and they go back to Source to rest. It's not a permanent thing. After a period of, period of time is not even the right terminology, but after resting sufficiently within Source, they come back and they're typically born again as a new spirit. Well, they're the same spirit, but they have a fresh shot at it, so to speak. You can reach out to somebody who has been sent and reconstruct them, invite them back, recover them, and they will be the same person they were before they went back to Source. They will have to rest because it's a very traumatic. Getting sent back to Source is a very traumatic process because of the sheer amount of damage you have to take to get there, and they will typically have to spend a significant amount of time recovering from their ordeals. One of the things that sets us apart from them is that we're willing to spend the energy to recover our dead. They are not. If a reptilian dies or one of their servants dies, they take the energy from the death, burn it for all they can, and let them go. They will not, quote-unquote, waste our time and energy by bringing back their fallen. Because of that, we've got a definite advantage. We may be numerically small, but we bring our people back. We took 30 and we captured 5. Damaged the rest, but not to the completely inoperable. They still attempted to take pot shots at the Andromeda Council biosphere. Given to understand that those missiles were safely disposed. That all happened about April 2nd. That was a busy night. Magic Eraser was fun. Now, this is something that, talking about ships is exciting. It's especially exciting for the Silver Legion, who up until now has not had any. But Magic Eraser actually has the potential to affect real, living, incarnated humans here on Earth. I'm going to give a little bit of background. Some people who are energy workers will no doubt be familiar with non-physical leeches. And I can guess some people will be nodding their heads at this description. They're little blobby dark things that are not intelligent, not sentient, and not strictly alive. And they glom onto people, typically at sites of trauma, and suck all the negative energy they can. They produce negative energy in that person and then feed on it. And sooner or later they get sated, drop off, and take their negative energy load back and deliver it. They don't reproduce on their own. They are not intelligent. They're fairly easy to destroy when you know they're there, but they're pretty good at hiding. And one of the problems with these leeches is that they often exacerbate existing conditions such as illnesses, particularly mental illness, the mental results of trauma. They're very, very good at exacerbating that. They're pseudo-living. They're bred in non-physical, ethereal realm factory breeding pits. It's a partnership between the Dracohydra reptilians and what I have sometimes heard referred to as the Archons. They work together. Magic Eraser basically went under the premise that if you kill the individual leeches, you don't really stop the problem. They can't breed on their own. They have only got a effective lifespan, as we reckon time, between 8 and 10 months. So they eventually drop off and poof on their own. They're fairly easy to take if you know they're there. A little bit of sonic energy, a little bit of fire, just burn them, they're gone. However, if you don't know they're a problem. For people who aren't aware and aren't awake and aren't energy workers, they can build up in amazing concentrations on a person. Rather like tapeworms. If you don't know they're a problem. If you know they're there, you can get rid of them, and then they're no longer a load on your system. So if you want to take care of the leeches, the only thing you can really do is deal with where they're manufactured, the breeding chambers. The problem with that is the breeding chambers were located, there were thousands of them on the planet, spread out in areas of particularly high concentrations of negative energy. They were using that negative energy to breed the leeches. Not physically, but in the corresponding ethereal realm. And we want to do something about this because we don't like them. I know for a fact that leeches are particularly plaguing and troublesome for some individuals and in some places. Some of you who are in those places may be nodding your heads and going, yep, we know about it. So we designed a operation which we called Magic Eraser. We wanted to make a clean sweep of it, in which we would destroy these breeding facilities. Cleaning up the individual leeches is, well, it's something we'd like to do. We simply don't have the manpower because they are without number, and again, they're limited in lifespan. There are some people here who are not going to be surprised by this at all. Areas of political capitals, higher numbers of breeding facilities, particularly Washington, London, Cairo, and Beijing. Now, they put these facilities up where there are concentrations of people. The Southeast Asian islands had a higher concentration of facilities. Places where actually we saw the fewest were the Great Plains and northern Russia, parts of Africa, like the Sahara. Basically places where where the concentration of humans is low. Usually there was a token facility somewhere in there, but the concentration was low. It wasn't as high as it was in heavily populated areas. Now, the problem with destroying the facilities is if we just went and blew them up, they would eventually be able to rebuild them. If we just took out one or two, it would not hurt the overall capacity. And we couldn't do it one at a time all over the world creeping, because then they'd be able to defend against it. So we had to have, again, a large simultaneous assault. And we used small teams for this, teams of about 1 to 3 people, for a total of about 3,000 Silver Legion operatives, all who specialize in stealth and subterfuge and sabotage. And we sent them out. There was a two-pronged thing. First, we snuck in a particular kind of explosive device. And then later on, we went in again with the teams with other different kinds of explosion devices.